Bring a glass there.
So, hi everybody, it's Martha Creek. It's 21st November. This is our third of the Living Untethered contemplations, reflections, and what I'm doing to apply this in my own life and lifting up and hoping and knowing in some way that it's benefiting me and benefiting you in some way, and therefore the whole of humanity. So a question came about how to know about courses like this. And I do courses similar to this at least 3 or 4 times a year that you don't have to register for or pay for unless you decide to. And the people I hang out with are extremely generous people. So many of you have already sent donations. Thank you for that. And it's a way for me to get empowered teachings to the whole of the planet, which is my mission, to serve those who serve and to get empowered teachings to the whole of the planet, to the whole of humanity. So I do this 3 or 4 times a year, and it'll be posted in my newsletter. So if you go to marthacreek.com and scroll down toward the bottom, you hit subscribe. It's very difficult. You have to click the word subscribe and then enter your email. So it's that quick and that easy. And then once a month, on the first day of the month, you'll get a little newsletter with me and my ramblings about what I'm into and what I'm learning and what I'm unraveling. And it'll list classes like this. That's where they'll be. And you're always welcome to join. You're also always welcome to send this out to other people that you believe make it use a little boost or a little uplift, or just join in, that would be blessed by joining in some time like this that we have in spiritual community. So together I can reach this many, alone I can reach this many, and then together we can reach this many, and then eventually together and through these recordings and sharing them, I believe that we reach that the rings of our work and our work together go out to places unseen. So there you go, marthacreek.com, and subscribe for that newsletter. There's also on that website daily recordings of my contemplations and reflections from the science of mind, which is a basic transformational teaching for me that I started about 25 years ago. And I was guided to go back to the basics of that, and did that this year. So I've been immersing myself in it, and I do a daily post on YouTube, on the Martha Creek YouTube channel. That's usually 3 to 5 minutes of where I am in that immersion of the science of mind teaching as a philosophy, a faith, and a way of being. So I'm not trying to represent what Ernest Holmes meant, but I'm absolutely doing my best to show and demonstrate what it means to me and how I'm practicing and applying it in my own life in very, very exquisite ways, profound ways. And my gratitude for it is unspeakable. So that's out there on the YouTube, and there's another 600 or 800 videos of me carrying on about any number of topics. And they're all free. And there's also a series out there called Presence and Functioning that is me going over the 30 tenets that are addressed in this last little book that came out with Martha Creek's name on it, called Presence and Potential, Living from Our Wholeness. And that little book has taken on a life of itself. And one of you said, I'm reading it. I've not read anything new yet, but it's causing me to remember a few things. So that get that little book if you want to, and you'll be the first to know that I'm going to record it in my voice based on the feedback that I get and what my voice means to certain people. So I'll be reading it and here recording it during the holidays, and then I'll release the recordings of it daily, a chapter a day, in February, which is my birthday month. So that's what I did with Martha's Pearls last year. And then I'll do that with this little book this year. So people that can't read or don't want to read will be able to hear it and receive the teachings too. And all the donations and offerings and anything that I get all support doing all that, getting that up. Also, those books that I put out there, it feels like it's a part of demonstrating this living untethered, actually, that it seems like it's a part of that practice for me. That I told the man that put that book up there that I wasn't looking to get payment for that book, that the book was offered out of my mission to get empowered teachings to the whole of humanity, and that he could use the proceeds from the book to advertise it and to continue to get it out into the world. So that's what we've done with the first book and now this one. And so far, that first little old book, Martha's Pearls, has reached, I think he said 12 or 14 countries already. By simple commitment, a devotion to that, and a clarity around what it's for, what it exists for. So I'm glad of that. I feel real grateful about that. And all of you all have made part of that possible too. So you're seeding teachings around the world, maybe without intending to, or without even being aware of about what your contributions can create. So thank you for it. All right, as we start, you're being recorded. If you don't want to be recorded, ask me to stop the recording or pause it so you can speak freely or ask questions, discuss, dialogue, debate, anything here that would bring a blessing to you in the way of our study in this untethered living, and that you are encouraged to get what you came for during this session. And we'll start tonight with maybe a big deep breath. And a presence in yourself. And what you believe or imagine or intend untethered living to be for you. If you were in a space of untethered living, what would it feel like? What would it be like? How would you think? What would you think about? What would you work for? What would you work toward? What would you stop doing to support your desire, your declaration for untethered living? What's some things that you might stop doing? What are some things you would begin doing, or one thing that you would start to do toward living untethered, living more untethered? So we give thanks for this time. We give thanks for this awakening. We give thanks for the call in us, the impulse that pulls us forward. dedicated to being pulled by our own vision and shifting out of any patterning or any old painful way of being pushed by pain, and being pulled by vision, a possibility, a potential for something new, for a new way of being, new way of thinking. We begin here tonight, right now. And Deborah, who's in our class, wrote something and shared it with us, and I've put it in the chat, and it's this: I serve this moment, a willing and open heart, seeing with new eyes. Would untethered living be for you? So be it. Amen. We begin. This is from the text, Living Untethered. Are you really going to continue making your life so difficult? Are you really going to continue making your life so difficult? In essence, you're causing yourself to be unhappy. Then you're going outside and demanding that the world somehow make you happy. The world cannot make you happy while you're inside making yourself unhappy. It is that simple. I can tell that some of you are giving me the middle finger now, silently, of course, in a spiritual, righteous kind of way. It's that simple. Is it that simple? So from the text, you have to work, we have to work, I have to work at letting go of the root cause of suffering. The spiritual path is always about letting go of ourselves. And that means dealing with our blocked energies, suppressed, depressed, disowned, denied feelings, energies, hurts, resentments. However, what would you say about it? What do you believe causes, or what do you know causes blocked energies in you? What's the cause of blocked energies in you? And please, without shame and guilt. Like, hopefully we've had enough of that for a lifetime. Just honestly, what causes blocked energies in you? The reservoir of this. So as we're willing to deal with these blocked energies or not, it's either continue to build the reservoir and then wonder why the top blows off of it, continue to build the reservoir and wonder why it leaks out sideways in sarcasm or deflection or passive aggressive or not so passive aggressive. What are ways that the blocked energies leak out in you? Anger, resentment. I named a few. These are my personal inventory. And my big one, which is silence as violence. Going quiet, withholding, clamming up, shutting down. What is your patterning around these blocked energies and managing the blocked energies? And what are the consequences of this to you? So there's another way to be with these, which intends then I'm not going to keep growing my reservoir of these. So I'm going to do a better job of seeing what's arising, giving it some space, letting it have its life, watching it, observing it, letting it dissipate, and doing my dangest not to suppress it, depress it, disown it, and deny that it's there, and therefore not adding to the reservoir of blocked energy I already have. So that's transformational. Second, I'm going to go into the reservoir, turn over the log and see what creepy crawlers are under there, and give them space to dissipate, to express, to also rise and pass. A purification process, so to speak, to give them space. This means allowing the blocked energies to be released consciously instead of watching them come out from the unconscious unconsciously, sideways, so to speak. When we're less in charge, when we have less ability to regulate ourselves. These blocked energies will tend to follow the path of least resistance. And when we allow it to happen, the uncontrolled energy carves channels within us that will make it easier to flow that way again. So the brain scientists refer to it as neural pathways. Patterning is a way it's referred to, where we have run the same rut of how we do this, the same track of this, till it carves its path, just like a river carves its path and then flows in the path that it's always flown, continuing to go that way. In that way, it becomes a habit or a pattern. So then not only losing it, not only is losing it unhealthy because of what I may say or what I may do that's going to have extreme consequences, certainly erode my relationships, but it also increases the probability that I'm going to lose it in the same way again and again and again. Have you noticed this? And what triggers? This is very consequential, can cause a lot of trouble for us. So anytime I'm not in some kind of more of charge, more responsible seat, anytime my highest self is not in the seat of consciousness, this is probable. So let's pause there and see, what are your reflections about this? How are you hearing this? What's your observations about it or questions? What potential do you see? Anybody? You can put it in chat or raise your hand. It's not required, of course. It's a free space here. Yes, the ones that weighed in said it shows up as exhaustion, depression, sarcasm, numbing out. Thanks, Marilyn. Marilyn, that is really powerful and graphic. The rut, as I described it, is a grave a grave with the ends kicked out of it. So it's like living in a grave. Yeah. Not being authentic. And Bill says, a doubt or fear that I adopted very early on, likely in childhood or during lunch. Not telling the truth, not telling what is true for me. Fear. All of the above. So there's some indicators here then to look to do something different, to say, okay, I'm going to interrupt these patterns. I'm going to do every doggone thing I can to keep my highest self in the seat of consciousness. All the while, these less mature parts of me are vying for the seat of consciousness. The perfectionist, the inner critic, the fit into a mold, people pleasing, this high achiever. So these are vying for the position of the seat of consciousness in us. All the while, our highest self is going, now you're all welcome here. You all have a place here. And I need to stay in the seat of consciousness. I need to stay in the big chair. Things are going to go better if I keep the bigger seat here, my highest self. And then I want to talk also a little bit tonight, and I'd like to hear from you about this, regarding this quote from the text. Inside you have no such limitations because there is no physical aspect to self. Your pure consciousness and your will has complete dominion over mind and emotions. So I'll start by disclosing I fell under the spell of something like this as a kid and believed that I could will myself out of appendicitis and affirm myself out of appendicitis and do mind treatment. Even as a young kid, I didn't even know what the word meant, but I was convinced that if I could just change my mind, I would change my appendicitis. Not to mention, I didn't want to be an inconvenience to my family. Because boy, were they already in chaos and turmoil and not knowing how to make ends meet. And I did not want to be a cause of suffering to them. So at age 14, I was willing myself not to have appendicitis. While I had appendicitis, while my appendix ruptured, while I had peritonitis and gangrene, you can look up these terms on Google, and had an experience of intensive care and a coma as a result of this. So, is it true that our will has complete dominion? And what happened to poor Martha and her great exercise and her will and dominion? Cheryl, go ahead, honey.
I think we can have dominion with practice. I don't think we can just all of a sudden say, yes, here, I'm going to do it. I think it takes practice.
Yeah, thank you. Bill?
Yeah, I think that consciousness is kind of eternal, and there's a difference between Martha and Martha's body. And Martha's body had some problems there, and that was probably not the most effective way to deal with appendicitis in hindsight. Is it possible it could have turned around? Sure, infinite possibilities, but appendicitis is a good thing to let the doctors treat. I don't have to tell you that, do I? You knew that.
Well, I don't know that I could ever hear it enough, Bill. Because I'm just a thought away from that again. I'm just, even with that experience, if I fall under a spell like that again, I'm just one thought away from trying to will myself out of not appendicitis anymore. It'll be cholelithiasis or some other lithiasis if I don't align with reality. And as I read this quote, which I've read several times, it's like, it doesn't say dominion over the body. It says dominion over the mind and dominion over emotions, which doesn't mean we're not going to have emotions. And what's the potential then that we can have emotion and emotion not have us? Is that possible? That we can have emotion, live with emotion, intense emotions, a full range of emotions, and emotions not have us? What's your experience with this, Cheryl?
Can I go back to the body part first? Isn't that what Myrtle Fillmore did when she healed herself with tuberculosis? Is exercised her will over her body?
Well, I don't know, honey. I don't know. I don't know what was in anybody else's consciousness. And that's how it's reported, that she said, I don't inherit illness, and then had a clearing of that tuberculosis, and she still died. So Daddy would say something had to kill us. So something has to kill us. And, I don't know. And if I had some kind of miraculous healing, I'd be in the history books now as the one who willed herself out of appendicitis. And something will kill me. And it'll likely be, Daddy and I used to talk about it, and I would say I could be 109 years old, and they'll say she lost her battle with breast cancer instead of she lived a perfect life, the perfect amount of life. She lost her battle with breast cancer, Bill.
So going back to when you were 14 with appendicitis, if in fact you had willed yourself out of having appendicitis at that time, you would not at this point know that you had appendicitis. So that just would have not been part of the story. Maybe you had appendicitis 17 times and that was the 18th time you didn't will yourself out of it.
Yeah. Or maybe I had it just enough to cause an emergency surgery. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had it on a different range. Who knows? And last night I did this with a group. Another group that's a specific group, a closed group that does an 8-month long immersion process with me. Those start, by the way, in September, October. So if you want information about them, you just email me about it. And we looked at from Dr. David Hawkins' work that we're doing simultaneously with his Living Untethered, which was some encouragement from the psychiatrist, Dr. David Hawkins, and The Power versus Force, and the book that we use in that group is Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender, which is absolutely aligned with this Living Untethered, that we're highly encouraged not to get into evaluations like this, and that letting the emotions be what they are, letting the emotions rise and pass, is a quicker route than entering the thinking realm, which would evaluate it, assess it, speculate about it, make up something about it, correlate it, and then believe what we made up about it. So it takes us deeper into it instead of unraveling it and knits it tighter together. So it served me well today. Pray for me. Just reading that again last night helped me today not to overthink a few things. And it's a miracle as far as I'm concerned. All right. So this is all to get us thinking. What does it mean that we are pure consciousness and have dominion over our mind and emotion? And then the practice for this week, if you take it on, so we've been looking at dialing down our preferences, and I actually found a podcast with him talking about that particular thing, and I'll put it here in the chat in just a little bit. So if you want to listen to what Michael Singer has to say about the consequences of us having preferences and what the potential and the payoff is for dialing down our preferences. And that's been very helpful to me just this month. I've only been at this 2 weeks in this way, and that has been very, very helpful for me. So before I go to the next one, can anybody share? Have you been working with your preferences or dialing back your preferences? What have you been noticing about it? Anybody want to share? Or are you into this at all even? Julie, are you unmuting, honey? Uh-huh.
I'm trying. I'm having trouble with my iPad.
It worked, honey. Yeah.
So I have been working with this, and I'm finding it exceedingly sneaky. My preferences are, they are so there and available that a lot of times I don't realize that I've been hypnotized by them, until, and so it's a lot of it is kind of been in hindsight, but I do think that it's been helpful to notice just how many of them I have. And it's, I guess I don't have to be like super charged on them, but I love the things that I love, and I'm so I'm not really sure how to best go about this, having sort of maybe failed a little. I'm not sure.
Well, I see it, honey, as it's not a tick box exercise, but it's a direction to go in. And I love how honest you are about this, honey, that we're hypnotized by this, and they're very subtle. And for me, the more subtle they get, the more powerful they get. And I've had some fun. I had guests here that are very, very dear to me this weekend, and it was very easy to see it because it's like somebody comes in and sets up the coffee pot for the next morning, and somebody else comes in and sets up the coffee pot the way they prefer for the next morning. Now, I'm not involved in this because I don't drink coffee, but boy, am I involved in this. It is like watching a circus. Then somebody else comes in and loads the dishwasher. Somebody else comes in and loads the dishwasher correctly. Somebody else made up a bed, and somebody else went and made up the bed the way they had wanted the bed made up. So this is just a few things. I noticed Hadelin was here, my little great niece who I'm nuts about. And she had been like all into these guests and playing and playing and playing. And when she gets ready to go home, she gets a little sad. And she might say things like, I don't want to go home. So I noticed my preferences. Strong preferences. And then as she gets kind of tense and disgruntled about going home, she's not into hugs or being hugged. Now, this is from she's a body part to I don't want to hug. And I committed when she was born that I will not, quote, make her hug people she doesn't want to hug. or hug at all if she doesn't want to. But boy, I had my preferences. Like, honey, you're not going to see them again till next summer. I caught myself wanting to talk her into how important this would be. And I could observe it. I didn't do it. Ain't I proud? But boy, it was there. Boy, it was there. And the allure was there. So this polarization of the inside, the internal forces of wanting to relax and pull back and mind my own damn business and allow. And the internal opposing force of you're not going to see them for 6 or 8 months. Like, get in there and give them a hug. Preferences. So food preferences, weather preferences, attitude preferences, when they respond to my email preferences, how they better be organized preferences. So I hope you'll stay with it enough to tickle yourself, not to shame and guilt and hate yourself, but to tickle yourself a little with just how much of this is running and just how much energy goes to this. And the cause of my unhappiness when I don't get my preferences. And then wanting the world to make me happy instead of I can dial up my happiness by dialing down my preferences. So there's a lot of power in this. Thanks, Julie. Let me know, honey. You know, I don't have any answers. I just got a bunch of questions. Deborah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Shaw's next. Deborah, hold on. Let Shaw's go, honey. And then I'll come to you.
So I found this exercise quite powerful. So my preference is that people give me their schedule so that I can prepare appropriately. So I'm the scheduler. And I ask people to give me their schedule, and we have all agreed that we will do it in advance. But there are some people who just don't do it. And every time it's always the same thing. And so this time, so what I didn't do, so then I will usually go to some other person in my group and I would complain, this person's doing XYZ again, and I'm getting frustrated. Now I can't plan my trip to Germany. And I was able to just not engage in that behavior. That is my preference. They're not doing it, and that's fine. And trusting that things will fall into place. So I sat with them at the table and I said, well, and I wasn't shaming or my thing is more like a passive aggressive kind of way of being. And I just allowed people just to be who they are. And I said, well, and then I sent out another, email, and I went ahead and booked my flight and trusting that things will fall into place. And then all of a sudden today, this whole schedule came into place without my not doing much. I just put that out there without this manipulation. And I can see the manipulation needing to plead, or maybe I need to say it this way, or be a little bit more cute, or be a little bit more entertaining, or and I didn't do any of that. And so I do notice by not doing that I have more energy as a result, because all of that other stuff that I do to get people to do what I want them to do costs a lot of energy, and that helps me see why I'm so exhausted a lot of times.
Absolutely, honey. Bravo. Beautiful. It is powerful. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, honey.
No.
What a gift to yourself, honey. What a gift to yourself. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you too, honey. Yeah. Deborah.
But while you were talking about preferences and listening, I had this awareness for me that there's something about complaining if I have my preferences about certain things. And I'll give an example of, my husband cutting some bread or food in the kitchen, and I want him to use a different knife because, it's easier, or that's the knife to use. And he's got a long handle knife, and I'm like, no, tools work if they're closer to you, you have more control. And so there's that complaint rather than he's helping in the kitchen. So yeah, I'm gonna start thinking about that as, is this a complaint?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you too, Deborah. And it may work for you. I don't know, honey. I just know if I ask yes or no questions, it gives me like this chicken ramp out versus saying, how is it a complaint? How is this actually a complaint? And an unrealistic, for me, expectation, a false expectation. Did I tell the story last week about the skillet with my mother? Have you already heard this? So this is an example of it. Like, and one of you shared with me that you got very frustrated with somebody you were visiting because they were telling you how to put your salmon on a plate. And the response was, I can put salmon on a plate, okay? Like, I don't need your coaching on how to put salmon on a plate. So we're just a thought away from this. And remember, this reservoir of unexpressed emotion is looking for an outlet, like a pressure cooker valve. It's looking for an outlet. So we may not be so surprised when it comes out sideways like this. Okay, so the next topic for tonight is to see, is it possible to relax? In whatever situation you're in, can you will yourself to relax? So bring to mind now a stressful situation, one you may have had today or this week, or for those of you more enlightened, when you were a kid. A stressful situation. And notice what happens in your body. Something gets tight or heavy. Like mine it kind of sticks in my throat. Like there's tightness and like a congested feeling in my throat when I bring that back to mind. And see if you intend to relax. Like even in this situation, even in this circumstance, even in this hurt, even with this big emotion, I'm going to take this on as a little practice to see, can I bring relaxation to this? Can I relax a little bit around this? Choosing to relax. What's your experience? I'm going to choose to relax instead. I'm going to make another choice here. Instead of getting tighter bound up in this, I'm going to choose another way. and relax around this. I'm going to relax about this. What'd you experience? Cheryl?
When you put it in terms of making a different choice versus willing, to me, it has two different. Yes, I can make a different choice, and willing it, I automatically, bolster up. But yes, I can always choose to do something different. It may not be easy, but yes, I can always make a different choice, whereas I may not always feel like I can will myself to do something different. So it's a different, puts it in a different framework for me, will versus choosing.
Yeah, I think so for me too, Cheryl. And I valued that. I valued a mind that was open enough to see that there's another choice here, or even that that choice is here. It's of great value to me. And it's a demonstration of a growth mindedness, and the opposite of a fixed mindedness about it. Francis?
I had this recent experience where the roofers came on a Friday and they were supposed to arrive on the following Monday. And I was not at all prepared, and I have a hearing challenge. And so having people come to tear the roof off a day early was a catastrophe. And I started out with my typical, you weren't supposed to, and the contract says, and then I stopped and I made a better choice. And I took a breath and thought through the consequences and was able to rearrange a little bit and compromise a little bit. And I got a new roof. And otherwise I'd have rain pouring down on me right now, because that roof couldn't have gone on for another 3 months if I'd said no. But the stopping before I went out and created a huge problem was such a gift. And thank you, Martha.
Wow. Yeah. Powerful, powerful, honey. Yeah. You're welcome for any part I have, Francis. Yeah. Anybody else want to speak about this? So then if we're going to practice it, see when this energy starts to arise, if we give it some space, let it have its space, let it watch it, observe it, let it have its life, it will dissipate. And the allure, though, to bind with it, the allure to jump on the bandwagon of it. And can I choose instead to stay observant, let it pass, let it have its life, and make another choice for me? In this very situation, I'm patterned to go in my grave, as Marilyn said. I'm patterned to go back in the rut of my reactivity toward this. And I'm going to stay in the seat of consciousness, and I'm going to make another choice about this when possible. So that'll be one of our practices for the week for some of us. And then the last quote from the teaching is this. Do you understand why Jesus said the kingdom is within you? And if Jesus is not your guy, do you understand what Buddha meant? The kingdom is within us. It is the very essence of your being, the very essence of my being. Your heights are incomprehensible, and you're perfectly capable of doing this mighty work. And your inner states will just keep getting higher and higher and higher as you keep letting go. Let go. The fact that you're interested in these teachings means that you have changed the world. The fact that you're even interested in these teachings and teachings like this means you've changed the world. I sincerely believe this, and it keeps me at it. You who do the work of liberating yourself, you are to be deeply respected, honored, and Michael Singer says, with his great love and respect. And Martha Creek says, with my great love and respect. I thank you for it. What is within you? What is incomprehensible at times within you that you've had a glimpse of? You've had more than a glimpse of, even. And what if we leaned toward that? What if we made choice in that direction? What would be possible? What has been the benefit to you of letting go or let be? How are you better off when you let be, or when you choose from a higher seat in consciousness, when we're able to choose? We're not always able to choose from a triggered response. But when we're able to choose, what's the benefit of living more from our essence? Anybody?
It just goes easier. Just flows.
There is a flow. There is a flow. It's what Shaw's was describing earlier. Like, who knew that the schedule could handle itself with very little input from big old important me? And the energy that I got to save as a result of waiting, letting that go and seeing what's possible. Deborah said she's kinder. This may be Marcia. I don't know for sure if it's Marcia. She says, I found that I'm always able to walk away and conquer myself. And I don't know what you mean by the myself, honey, if that's what you meant. Oh, Bethany, hi, it's you, honey. That it's, thank you, honey. It's the committing to it, the resolve that comes with the testing of myself. Very powerful, honey. Teresa says, less upset. See more good. And realize the innocent and the innocence. Does this sound easier? So take 2 minutes and write down some of your takeaways from tonight's class or your practices, the way you've been testing this out. Just write down some takeaways, something that you're thinking, believing, contemplating, reflecting on. Just write it down as takeaways. Anybody can share what you wrote down. The wisdom in this room is such value. I also put in the comments the 2 Singer podcast on preferences. And I think the last one is entitled something like Trade My Preference for Blessing or something like that. It was very appealing, the title of that one. Trading My Preferences for Blessings. What's your takeaway from tonight or the other few weeks that we had together? Anybody that can share? Bill?
I love the notion of preferences that ties in with the Buddhist suffering, because they're 2 sides of the same coin. But the insidious part, the allure, is that when we are getting what we prefer, we don't think of it as suffering. So we think that as long as I can get what I want, then there's no problem. And then game on. And what a wonderful insight that was for me.
It's true, Bill. Thank you for speaking it. Of course, it's the same side of the coin. So, and it's what it means by my preferences will also be my suffering. Getting what I want will eventually be my suffering. It's going to cause my suffering. Attachment to it. And a leak of energy, the more demanding, willful, and stubborn I get about it. Not to mention the false expectations. Anybody else want to share your takeaways? Cheryl?
I was really impressed with I forget who was talking about the calendar, and what this has said to me is when I let go of my need to feel like I need to control things, I get my time and my energy back.
Say it again.
When I let go of my need to control, I get back my time and my energy.
AKA my life. Yeah, beautifully said. And Sybil says, yep, preferences cause of suffering. Yep. Okay, the clock says it's time to begin. I'm pretty attached to y'all. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for your work in the world. I meant to introduce Marilyn tonight for some of you that's affiliated with Anton, which is the affiliated New Thought Network, antn.org. You're welcome to check us out to see what we're about over there. Marilyn graduated this year from Emerson Institute with a doctorate in religious studies, and she was our elder graduate, and she's on the call here tonight. So if you want to, Marilyn, you usually speak about, honey, your age with people. So how inspiring it is to have you study with us. And the older Marilyn gets, the newer Marilyn gets. And I'm very inspired by you, honey, specifically you at your age. You've got a few years on us, some of us. So glad you're here tonight, and God bless you, honey, and your uncommon stamina to end suffering in you, and therefore in the people, in all of humanity, honey. All right. antn.org, affiliated New Thought Network. That's the acronym, antn.org. And we do a great retreat out at Unity Village every year in October, and have monthly gatherings that's got new thought leaders and thought leaders that's open to the public and free. So if you sign up and enroll over there, you'll get emails about that also. Okay, 2 minutes over. Don't judge me for it. You're
Nice
welcome.
Thanksgiving, Martha.
Oh, God bless you all. I'm so happy to be here with you. I'll see you next week. Happy Thanksgiving this week. And I know for sure you're going to be giving thanks for something new. So think about me when you do that. You'll be hearing my voice in your ear going, relax, relax. Everybody, just relax, till I see you again. Much love.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martha.
Good night.
Martha.
Welcome.
Thank you. Love you.
Welcome. Love you too, precious.
Bye, Martha.
Bye, honey. Good night, honey.